The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest structure Admiral Park had ever seen. It floated in space like a frozen teardrop made of crystal and light. Thousands of alien ships surrounded it, each one belonging to a different species from across the galaxy. As the small human shuttle approached, felt very small indeed. But he did not let his face show it. Beside him sat Ambassador, a woman in her 50s with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had spent 30 years talking to difficult people and making them agree with her. She had negotiated peace between warring nations on Earth. But this was different. This was humanity's first official contact with the galaxy's ruling government. "Remember," said quietly, "we are here to listen and learn, no matter what they say." Nodded. He was a military man, not a diplomat. His job was to stand tall, look strong, and say nothing unless asked. But something in his gut told him this meeting would not go well. Their shuttle landed in a docking bay larger than most cities. Strange creatures watched them exit, beings with too many eyes, beings with no eyes at all, beings made of something that looked like living metal. None of them looked friendly. A floating sphere approached and spoke in perfect Korean. "The council will see you now. Follow." They followed the sphere through hallways that seemed to go on forever. The walls showed images of planets and stars, of great battles and ancient treaties. This council had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. To them, human civilization was like a baby taking its first steps. Finally, they entered the Grand Hall itself. Had prepared himself, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The room was massive beyond belief. Hundreds of platforms floated in the air, each holding representatives from different species. In the center, on the highest platform, sat the leaders of the council. High Arbiter was impossible to miss. He was an insect-like creature standing nearly 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected the light in 1,000 directions. He wore robes of deep purple, the color of authority in this part of the galaxy. Beside him sat others, but the one that caught attention was a reptilian being with scales of dark green and teeth like knives. Was a senator from the Dominion worlds, known throughout the galaxy for his cruelty. "The humans," announced, his voice booming through the hall. Finally, the young species shows itself. Stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "High Arbiter, honored members of the Council, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, we thank you for this opportunity to—" "Yes, yes," interrupted, waving one of his 4 hands. "We know why you are here. You have discovered space travel and wish to join the galactic community. This is amusing." Laughter rippled through the hall. His jaw tightened, but he kept his face calm. Continued as if she had not heard the laughter. "We come in peace and hope to establish fair relations with all species. Earth has much to offer." "Offer?" His voice was like gravel grinding against metal. "What could meat creatures barely crawled from their own filth possibly offer us?" More laughter, louder this time. Raised a hand for silence. "Let us show our guests what we already know about them. Perhaps they do not understand their own position." A hologram appeared in the center of the hall. It showed Earth, blue and green and beautiful, hanging in the darkness of space. Then it showed human technology, rockets burning chemical fuel, satellites orbiting Earth, nuclear power plants, cities lit up at night. "Primitive," said, "you still burn fuel to reach orbit. You still split atoms for power. Your fastest ships would take generations to reach the nearest star." The hologram changed to show human warfare, tanks and bombs and soldiers, world wars and conflicts. "And this is how you treat each other," added with disgust. "You have never fought a battle beyond your own atmosphere. You are children playing with dangerous toys." Wanted to speak. He wanted to tell them that those children had survived ice ages and plagues and disasters, that humans had crawled out of caves and walked on their own moon, that they had done all of this in just a few thousand years while these species had millions. but had told him to stay silent, so he did. The council has already voted, announced. Earth is classified as a pre-emergent species. You are not ready to stand as equals among us. His voice remained steady. What does this classification mean? It means, said with what might have been a smile on an insect face, that you will be protected. The hegemony will guard your little world from the dangers of space. In return, you will pay tribute. What kind of tribute? A list appeared on the hologram. Resources, minerals, rare elements. The numbers were staggering. Paying this tribute would cripple Earth for generations. Their children's children would still be paying. This is not acceptable, said carefully. Surely we can negotiate. There is no negotiation, hissed. You will pay or you will be made to pay. This is how the galaxy works, little ape. The strong rule, the weak serve. The hall erupted in laughter again. Creatures from 100 worlds found joy in humanity's humiliation. Watched them, memorizing faces, if they could be called faces. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He knew enemies when he saw them. Leaned forward on his platform. You have 30 of your days to prepare your first tribute. Do not disappoint us. They are not patient. Bowed again, perfectly polite, revealing nothing of her feelings. We understand. We will return to Earth and consider your generous offer. There is nothing to consider. It is decided. Waved his hand in dismissal. You may leave. The floating sphere appeared again to guide them out. As they walked toward the exit, called out one last time. Run home, little apes. Tell your world to prepare their tribute. 30 days, use them wisely, and pray we do not decide to take more than we have asked for. Stopped walking, looked at him with warning in her eyes, but something in him would not allow this moment to pass in silence. He turned his head slightly, not looking directly at. His voice was quiet, but in the sudden silence of the hall, everyone heard him clearly. 30 days is generous. We will not need half that. For a moment no one spoke, then burst out laughing and the whole hall laughed with him. What a joke! What arrogance from such a small creature! Walked out with beside him, the laughter following them like a wave. On the shuttle back to their ship, finally spoke. That was unwise. Perhaps, replied, but it was true. Studied his face. She had known for 5 years. He never spoke without reason and he never lied. What do you know that I do not? She asked. Looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there Earth was waiting, and on Earth things were waking up, things the galaxy had never seen. I know, he said slowly, that those creatures have been rulers for too long. They have forgotten something very important. What is that? Turned to look at her, and for the first time since they had arrived, he smiled. They have forgotten what it means to fight someone with nothing to lose. Behind them, the grand hall grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared among the stars. The council had made their decision. They had humiliated humanity in front of the entire galaxy. They had no idea what was coming. The United Nations emergency session was held deep underground, in a room that officially did not exist. Leaders from every major nation sat around a massive table, their faces lit by the cold blue glow of holographic displays. Above them, the stars of the galaxy rotated slowly, a reminder of what waited beyond their small world. Admiral Park stood at the head of the table, still wearing his uniform from the failed diplomatic mission. Beside him, Ambassador looked tired but determined. They laughed at us, said, his voice calm but heavy. They called us primitive. They demanded tribute that would destroy our economies for 100 years, and when we tried to negotiate, they laughed again. The room was silent. Everyone had watched the recordings from the council chamber. They had seen the mockery, the dismissal, the contempt. So that is the situation, added. The galaxy does not see us as equals. They see us as animals to be controlled. The President of the United States leaned forward. What are our options? Looked around the room slowly before answering. That depends. Is Project Black Horizon ready? A woman in a simple gray uniform stood up from the back of the room. She was General Han, commander of Earth's most secret military program. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes were sharp as knives. "It has been ready for 3 years," she said. "We were waiting for a reason to use it." The room stirred. Some of the leaders had heard whispers about Black Horizon, but few knew the truth. Now they would learn. General Han pressed a button and the hologram changed. Instead of stars, it showed something else: ships. Thousands of ships, sleek and black and deadly, hidden in places across the solar system. 40 years ago, Han explained, we intercepted alien communications. We realized we were not alone in the universe. We also realized that whoever was out there might not be friendly, so we prepared. She zoomed in on one of the ships. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, all sharp angles and smooth surfaces. These are not rockets that burn fuel. These ships use the fold drive, technology we developed in secret. We can fold space itself, travel from one point to another in seconds. No alien species has anything like this. The Russian president spoke up. "How is this possible? We have been to space. We have seen no sign of such technology." "Because we hid it," Han replied simply. "The ships are built in underground factories on the dark side of the moon, beneath the ice of Europa, inside the storms of Jupiter. The galaxy has been watching Earth, but they were not looking in the right places." She showed another image: weapons, energy cannons, antimatter torpedoes, kinetic rounds designed to be fired at near-light speed. "Our weapons are also advanced. The Council thinks we fight with tanks and bombs. They do not know what we have created." Spoke again. "We have kept this secret for decades because we did not want to provoke a war. We hoped that first contact would be peaceful. We hoped wrong." Stepped forward. "I want to try one more time. One more message to the Council asking for respect and fair negotiation. If they refuse again, then we have no choice." The room discussed and argued for hours. Some wanted peace at any cost. Others wanted blood. In the end, they agreed on a simple plan: one final chance for diplomacy. If it failed, humanity would show the galaxy what it could really do. Far from Earth, in a military base orbiting Mars, Captain was preparing for war. She was young for a captain, only 32, but no one in the fleet could fly like her. She had been training for this moment since she was 16, when her father had told her the truth about what was coming. "The aliens will find us someday," he had said, "and when they do, you need to be ready." Now she commanded the Ghost Lancers, Earth's first interstellar strike wing. 50 pilots, each one the best of the best. They flew ships that could dance between dimensions, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Her brother was there too, but he was not a pilot. He was a scientist, one of the geniuses who had invented the fold drive. While fought with weapons, fought with mathematics and physics. They were two halves of the same family, united in the same cause. "The Council has no idea what we can do," said, watching his sister check her flight suit. "They think we are primitives. They will learn." Smiled, but there was no joy in it. "People will die, brother. Our people, their people. War is not something to celebrate." "No," agreed, "but sometimes it is necessary." Across the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet began to wake. Pilots ran to their ships. Engineers activated systems that had been sleeping for years. The machinery of war hummed to life in the darkness of space. On the Galactic Council station, High Arbiter received a report that troubled him. Human ships were moving, gathering in formations. Something was happening. He summoned Senator to discuss this news. "The humans are frightened," said with a laugh. "They are panicking like prey animals, probably preparing to run and hide." "Perhaps," replied, "but we should not take chances. Send a fleet to their system. Nothing too large, perhaps 200 ships. Remind them of their place." Smiled, showing all his teeth. With pleasure, I will personally choose the commanders. By the time we are done, those apes will be begging to pay double the tribute. The order went out. 200 Dominion warships began their journey toward Earth's sun. They expected to find terrified primitives waiting to surrender. They had no idea what was waiting for them. On Earth, ambassadors sent one final message to the Council. It was broadcast on every frequency, impossible to ignore. "Members of the Galactic Council," she said, her voice calm and clear, "this is humanity's final request for peaceful negotiation. We ask to be treated as equals with respect and dignity. We ask for fair terms and mutual cooperation." She paused, letting her words hang in the silence of space. "If you refuse this request, you will learn why humans have survived every disaster our world has thrown at us. Ice ages, plagues, mass extinctions, asteroid impacts. We have survived them all. We adapt, we fight, we win." Another pause. "Do not make us your enemy. You will not enjoy the experience." The message ended. On the council station, High Arbiter watched it with cold, compound eyes. His aide asked if he wished to respond. "No," said, turning away. "Send a form rejection. These creatures are wasting our time." The rejection was sent. "Your request has been received and prepare your tribute. No further communication is required." On Earth, Admiral Park received the rejection. He read it once, then set it down carefully on his desk. For a long moment, he simply sat in silence. Then he reached for his communicator. "General Han, this is Admiral Park." "I am listening, Admiral." "Wake the fleet, all of it. It is time to teach the galaxy a lesson they will never forget." Far from Earth, in bases hidden across the solar system, the waiting ended. Lights flickered on. Engines roared to life. Pilots climbed into cockpits and sealed their helmets. Humanity was done being polite. Captain sat in her ship, the Ghost One, and watched the stars through her viewport. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was coming to threaten her world. They thought they were hunters coming to catch helpless prey. They were about to find out how wrong they were. "All Ghost Lancers," she said into her radio, "prepare for launch. Today we show the galaxy who we really are." The first ships rose from their hiding places, black shapes against the blackness of space. And somewhere in the council chamber, no one noticed the shadows beginning to move. The Dominion fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 200 warships, each one larger than anything humans had ever built, or so the Dominion believed. Commander, a reptilian officer with scars across his snout from decades of warfare, stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the tiny yellow sun in the distance. "Scan for human vessels," he ordered. His sensors officer worked quickly, then looked up with confusion. "Commander, I detect nothing. No ships, no defenses, nothing." Blinked his vertical eyes. "Nothing. They must be hiding on the far side of their planets. Move the fleet forward slowly. I want to savor this." The massive warships began their approach, engines glowing blue against the blackness of space. Imagine the terror that must be spreading across Earth right now. Primitive creatures with their primitive sensors, watching 200 warships come to crush them. He almost felt sorry for them, almost. "Commander," the sensors officer said suddenly, his voice strange. "I am picking up something, a signal. It is." "It is what?" "It is coming from everywhere." The communication screen flickered, and then a face appeared, a human face. Young female with dark hair pulled back tight and eyes that showed no fear at all. "Dominion fleet," the human said. Her voice was calm, almost friendly. "My name is Captain of the United Earth Defense Force. You were warned not to come here." Laughed, the bridge crew laughed with him. "Little creature, where are you hiding? Show yourself so we can end this quickly." Smiled slightly, "As you wish." Space itself seemed to tear open. All around the Dominion fleet, black shapes appeared from nowhere, ships folding into existence from somewhere else, somewhere impossible. They were smaller than the Dominion vessels, but there were hundreds of them, and they were already firing. The first salvo hits fleet before anyone could react. Antimatter torpedoes slammed into shields and tore through hull plating. Kinetic rounds traveling at near-light speed punched holes through engines and reactors. In the first 30 seconds, 15 Dominion ships were simply gone, not damaged, not disabled, but erased from existence. "Return fire," screamed, gripping his command chair as his flagship shook from an impact. "All ships return fire." But the human ships were not where they had been a moment ago. They folded out of space, appeared somewhere else, fired again, and vanished before the Dominion weapons could track them. It was like fighting ghosts. His voice came through the communication system again. "You called us primitive. You laughed at our technology. Are you laughing now?" Watched in horror as another wave of his ships exploded. The humans were not just fighting, they were hunting. Each strike was precise, calculated, deadly. Whoever these pilots were, they had trained for years. They knew exactly what they were doing. "All ships retreat," finally ordered, "fall back to." He never finished the sentence. A single human ship appeared directly in front of his flagship's bridge, so close he could see the pilot through the cockpit glass. It was the same woman who had spoken to him. "Captain." She looked at him through the glass, and he saw something in her eyes that he had never seen in prey before. "Pity." Her ship fired once, and the bridge exploded around him. 11 minutes after the battle began, it was over. 200 Dominion warships, the pride of Senator's military, were nothing but debris floating in the void. Not one human ship had been destroyed, though some were damaged. 23 human pilots had died when their vessels were hit by lucky shots or caught in explosions. Felt each loss like a knife in her heart. "Ghost 5 report." She called into her radio, trying to keep her voice steady. "Ghost 5 here," came the response, weak but alive. "Lieutenant Moon, her wingman and one of her closest friends. My ship is damaged, life support failing, but I am still here. Hold on, rescue ships are coming." She guided her squadron back toward the main fleet, where medical ships were already deploying to collect the wounded. The victory was complete, but did not feel like celebrating. She had just killed thousands of beings, enemies, yes, but still living creatures with families and hopes and fears. War was never clean. Her father had taught her that. On the council station, far across the galaxy, High Arbiter received the news. He did not believe it at first. 200 ships destroyed in 11 minutes. Impossible. There must be some mistake. But there was no mistake. The recordings were clear. Human ships appearing from nowhere, striking with weapons the galaxy had never seen, vanishing before anyone could fight back. It was not a battle, it was a massacre. Senator stormed into the council chamber, his scales dark with rage. "This is an outrage, a crime. We must gather every fleet in the galaxy and crush these animals." Said nothing. He was watching the recordings again, studying the human ships. They moved in ways that should not be possible. Their weapons were beyond anything the Council had developed in 12,000 years. How had a species they had dismissed as primitive achieved this? "Arbiter," one of his aides said quietly, "we are receiving a transmission from Earth." "Put it through." Admiral Park's face appeared on every screen in the council chamber. He looked calm, almost peaceful, like a man who had finished a difficult job. "High Arbiter, Senator, members of the Galactic Council, I trust you received the reports from your fleet at our border." You murdered them," screamed. "You will pay for this." Continued as if had not spoken. "That was a fraction of our force, a small demonstration of what humanity can do when threatened. You have insulted us, mocked us, and tried to enslave us. We gave you a chance to negotiate as equals. You refused." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was colder. "Now I will make this very simple. You have 24 hours to apologize for your insults and agree to negotiate fair terms with humanity. If you refuse, or if you attempt any military action against our world, we will not stop at destroying your fleets." He leaned forward slightly. "We will come for your worlds, every station, every planet, every moon where your people live. We did not want this war, but if you force us to fight it, we will fight it to the end, and we will win." The transmission ended. The council chamber was silent. For the first time in living memory, no one was laughing at humans. Broke the silence first. "We cannot let this stand. Call the combined fleets. We have thousands of ships across the galaxy." But was thinking. He had ruled the council for 80 years. He had seen wars before, small conflicts with minor species, easily crushed. This was different. These humans had hidden their true strength for decades. They had let the galaxy underestimate them, and now they were revealing what they could really do. What else were they hiding? "We need time to think," said slowly. "We need to understand what we are dealing with." Time was practically screaming now. "They murdered 200 ships. We do not need time, we need blood." The council voted. Most agreed with. Pride and anger clouded their judgment. They would gather their fleets and show these humans what happened to species that dared challenge the galactic order. It was the worst decision they had ever made. On Earth, Admiral Park received word of the council's vote. He had expected it. Proud creatures did not surrender easily, especially when they had ruled for so long. He opened a channel to General Han. "The council has chosen war. Begin full deployment. All ships, all sectors." "Understood, Admiral. What are our rules of engagement?" Park thought of the council chamber, of the laughter and the contempt. He thought of all the species the council had enslaved over 12,000 years, all the worlds they had conquered and stripped bare. "Minimum necessary force," he said. "We destroy their military, not their civilians. We are not like them." "And if they surrender?" "Then we accept. We are fighting to prove a point, General, not to commit genocide. Never forget the difference." The order went out across the solar system and beyond. Humanity's true fleet, not the small force that had destroyed the Dominion, began to move. Thousands of ships, each one capable of folding space, each one armed with weapons that could crack planets. The galaxy had mocked Earth. Now Earth was coming to answer. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. In a single moment across 12 different star systems, human fleets appeared from fold space. There was no warning, no buildup, no slow approach through normal space. 1 second the skies were empty, the next black ships filled them like a storm of shadows. On the High Arbiter watched from his palace as human vessels surrounded his planet. His defense fleet, 3,000 ships, the largest in the galaxy, tried to respond. They managed to destroy exactly 17 human vessels before they were overwhelmed. The rest of the fleet was torn apart in less than an hour. Admiral Park commanded the campaign from the UNS Perseverance, a massive carrier ship that served as humanity's mobile headquarters. From here, he coordinated attacks across thousands of light years, receiving reports and giving orders with calm precision. "Dominion sector secured," one officer reported. "Their fleet has surrendered." "Outer colonies falling," said another. "Minimal resistance." "The Confederation is requesting negotiation." Park nodded at each report. "Accept all surrenders. Protect civilian targets. Any ship that stops fighting is to be left alone." Beside him, monitored the Fold Drive network, ensuring the human fleets could coordinate their movements across impossible distances. His sister was out there somewhere, leading the Ghost Lancers against the Council's elite guard. "Brother said quietly, we are winning, but the cost." "I know." Park's face was tired. He had not slept in 2 days. "Every death weighs on me. But if we stop now, if we show weakness, they will rebuild and come for Earth with everything they have. We must finish this. Captain led her squadron through the burning debris of what had been the Third Fleet. Her ship, Ghost One, moved through the chaos like a dancer, dodging fire and returning it with deadly accuracy. "Ghost 7 on your left," she called out. Lieutenant Moon, recovered from his injuries but still bearing scars, rolled his ship just in time to avoid a missile. "Thanks, Captain. These ones fight harder than the last group." "They are defending there. Of course they fight harder." Understood that feeling. If alien ships surrounded Earth, she would fight to her last breath too, but they had made their choice. They had laughed at humanity, threatened Earth, and refused every offer of peace. Now they were learning the price of that arrogance. "All Ghost Lancers," she announced, "focus on military targets only. Civilian stations are off limits. We are soldiers, not murderers." Her squadron acknowledged. They had all been trained the same way. Fight hard, fight smart, but never forget that the enemy was made of living beings too. On the surface of the ambassador was doing a different kind of fighting. While the military broke the Council's power, she was building something new. She had made contact with species that had been oppressed by the Council for centuries. The gentle beings who had been forced into slavery, mining dangerous materials on dead worlds. The proud species who had been stripped of resources until nothing remained. The scientists who had been forbidden from advancing their technology beyond Council-approved limits. "Humanity does not want to rule the galaxy," told them in a secret transmission. "We want to free it. When this war ends, there will be no more Council. There will be a new alliance, an alliance of equals where no species is above another." The response was overwhelming. Species that had been silent for generations began to rise up. Workers sabotaged mining equipment. Pilots refused to fly Council ships. Scientists shared hidden technology with human forces. The Council had ruled through fear and power. Now both were failing them. High Arbiter watched his empire crumble from the windows of his palace. Human ships hung in the sky like dark clouds, their weapons pointed at his world. His fleets were gone. His allies had surrendered or been destroyed. The species he had ruled were turning against him. Senator was dead. He had tried to flee when his own fell, but Captain's squadron had caught his ship. There was no mercy given, had offered none to others, and he received none in return. Now was alone, surrounded by enemies with nowhere to run. His aide approached nervously. "High Arbiter, the humans are demanding your surrender. They say if you refuse, they will." "I know what they will do." Compound eyes were dark, empty of the arrogance that had filled them just days ago. "Bring me a communication device." Admiral Park's face appeared on screen. The human looked tired but victorious. Behind him, officers moved efficiently, managing a war that spanned half the galaxy. "High Arbiter," Park said, "I believe you have something to say." Wanted to rage. He wanted to threaten, to promise revenge, to maintain some shred of dignity. But dignity was a luxury he could no longer afford. His people were counting on him to save whatever could be saved. "I surrender," he forced out. "The hegemony surrenders. What are your terms?" Park did not smile. He did not mock. He simply nodded and began to speak. "First, the complete dissolution of the Galactic Council. No more tributes. No more classifications of species as pre-emergents. Every species in this galaxy will be treated as equals." "Agreed." "Second, all conquered worlds will be freed. The all of them. Every species that was taken by force will have their independence restored." His heart sank, but he nodded. "Agreed." "Third, reparations. Not to humanity, we want nothing from you, but to the species you have harmed. You will help rebuild what you destroyed." "And if we refuse?" Park's eyes were cold. "Then we continue until there is nothing left to refuse." Closed his eyes. 12,000 years of dominance, ended in 19 days by a species they had called primitive. The history books would remember this moment forever. The moment the Great Council fell to the creatures they had laughed at. "I accept all terms," said, "the war is over." But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. The war had ended, but the real work was just beginning. The galaxy would never be the same, and they would spend generations trying to understand how they had been so wrong about humanity. On the Perseverance, Admiral Park ended the transmission and leaned back in his chair. Around him, his officers began to cheer. The war was won. Earth was safe. The council that had threatened them was destroyed. But Park did not celebrate. He thought about the pilots who had died, the ships that would never return home, the families who would receive news of lost loved ones. General Han appeared beside him. "Admiral, you have led humanity to victory. The galaxy is ours." "The galaxy is not ours," Park corrected quietly. "The galaxy belongs to everyone who lives in it. That is what we fought for, not conquest, never conquest." He stood slowly, feeling every one of his 62 years in his bones. "Contact Ambassador. Tell her the military phase is complete. It is time for the diplomats to build something better than what we destroyed." Han nodded and left to carry out the order. Park walked to the window of his ship and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was waiting, small and blue and beautiful. He had left it to fight this war. Soon, he would go home. But first there was work to do, a galaxy to rebuild, a future to create. And that, he knew, would be harder than any battle. 3 months had passed since the fall of the Galactic Council. The great crystal hall where humanity had been mocked now stood empty and dark, its floating platform silent, its lights dimmed. No one gathered there anymore. The age of the council was over. But across the galaxy, something new was being born. Ambassador stood in the center of a different hall, smaller, simpler, built on the neutral world of Tessera. Representatives from over 100 species filled the room, sitting together as equals for the first time in thousands of years. Beside Dominion, beside humans. "We call this the Interstellar Cooperative," announced, her voice clear and strong. "Not a council that rules from above, but an alliance that works together. No species is above another. No world pays tribute to another. We share knowledge, we share resources, and we solve our problems through discussion, not through war." A delegate rose, a small being with silver skin and large, dark eyes. "Ambassador, the humans could have conquered the galaxy. Your ships were unstoppable. Your weapons were beyond anything we had seen. Why did you stop? Why did you not take everything for yourselves?" Considered the question carefully before answering. "Because that is not who we are. We did not fight this war to become the new rulers of the galaxy. We fought it to prove that no one should rule over others by force. We wanted to earn respect, not fear." She paused and looked around the room. "Humanity has made many mistakes in our history. We have fought wars among ourselves, destroyed parts of our own planet, harmed each other in terrible ways. But we have also learned from those mistakes. We have learned that true strength is not about domination. It is about building something that lasts, something that helps everyone, not just the powerful." The room was silent. For many of the species present, this was a new way of thinking. They had lived under the council for so long that they had forgotten any other way was possible. But slowly, one by one, the delegates began to nod. A diplomat rose and spoke words that would have been unthinkable 3 months ago. "The hegemony formally joins the Interstellar Cooperative. We accept the terms of equality. We pledge to repair the harm we have caused." Others followed. The Dominion, the even species that had been fierce enemies for centuries, found themselves agreeing to work together. Watched it all with quiet satisfaction. This was the victory she had always wanted, not a victory of weapons, but a victory of ideas. Far from the great halls of diplomacy, Admiral Park was finally going home. His shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, passing through clouds and blue sky until the land below became visible. Green mountains, silver rivers, the sprawling cities of humanity. He had been gone for almost 5 months, fighting a war that had changed the galaxy forever. Now he was tired. Tired of war, tired of command, tired of making decisions that cost lives. He wanted nothing more than to rest. The shuttle landed in a small town in the Korean countryside, far from the capitals and military bases. A simple house waited for him there, with a garden that had been tended by neighbors while he was away. His wife had planted that garden before she died 10 years ago. She had loved flowers, roses and lilies and cherry blossoms. Caring for them was the only thing that brought him peace. As he walked through the garden, feeling the earth beneath his feet, he heard a voice behind him. "Admiral Park." He turned to find a young officer, a messenger from the military. "What is it?" "The United Nations would like to honor you, sir. A ceremony in Geneva. They want to give you medals, make speeches, celebrate the victory." Park looked at the messenger for a long moment, then turned back to his garden. "Tell them no. I have had enough of speeches and ceremonies. I did my duty. Now I want to be left alone." "But sir, you are a hero. The whole world wants to thank you." Park knelt down and touched the petals of a rose, his wife's favorite. A hero is someone who does what is necessary and takes no pleasure in it. I killed thousands of beings because I had no other choice. I saved my world by destroying others. That is not something to celebrate. He stood and looked at the officer with kind but firm eyes. "Go back. Tell them the Admiral is retired. If they need me again, they know where to find me. But for now, let me rest." The messenger left. Park stayed in his garden until the stars came out, watching the same sky that had once seemed so threatening. Now it was full of possibility. In a military hospital orbiting Mars, Captain sat beside Lieutenant Moon's bed. He was recovering from his injuries, broken bones, damaged organs, burns that would take months to heal. But he was alive, and that was what mattered. "They promoted you," he said with a weak smile. "Commodore now, very impressive." Shrugged, "Titles do not mean much. What matters is that we survived." Not everyone did. The words hung in the air between them. They had lost 23 pilots from the Ghost Lancers, 23 friends who would never go home, had written letters to every family, explaining how their loved ones had died and why their sacrifice mattered. It was the hardest thing she had ever done. "What will you do now?" asked. "I do not know. The war is over. There are no more enemies to fight." She looked out the hospital window at the stars. "My brother wants me to help him share our technology with the cooperative. He says knowledge should be free." "He is right." "I know, but I am a pilot, not a scientist. I was trained to fight. Without war, what am I?" Reached out and took her hand, a gentle touch that said more than words could. "You are the woman who led the Ghost Lancers to victory, the woman who showed the galaxy what humanity can do, and you are my friend." She looked at him, and for the first time in months she felt something other than duty and grief. She felt hope. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "I can learn to be something new." On the former High Arbiter walked through the ruins of his capital city. Human aid workers moved around him, distributing food and medicine to civilians. Ships from a dozen different species landed constantly, bringing supplies and volunteers. 3 months ago, these beings were his enemies. Now they were helping his people survive. He did not understand it. He stopped near a medical station where a young human woman was treating a child. The child had been injured when a building collapsed during the bombardment. The woman worked quickly and gently, speaking soft words in a language the child did not understand but seemed to find comforting. Approached Ambassador, who was overseeing the relief efforts nearby. "Ambassador, may I speak with you?" Turned and regarded him with calm eyes. "Of course, former High Arbiter." "I do not understand," admitted. His voice was quiet, stripped of the arrogance that had once defined him. "We mocked your species. We threatened you. We tried to make you slaves, and when you defeated us you could have destroyed everything. Instead, you are helping us. Why?" Was silent for a moment, watching the medical worker bandage the child's wounds. "Because you were wrong about us," she finally said. "You saw our violence and called us primitive. You saw our short lives and called us weak. But you missed what makes humanity survive. We adapt. We learn. We grow. And most importantly, we forgive. Forgive after everything we did." "Holding on to anger is like holding a burning coal," said. "It only hurts the one who holds it. We do not forgive because you deserve it. We forgive because we deserve peace." Tried to understand, but it was difficult. He had lived for 300 years under the simple rule that the strong dominated the weak. The idea that strength could also mean mercy was foreign to him. "You made us your enemies," continued. "We are choosing to make you our neighbors, perhaps someday even friends, but that depends on you." She turned to face him directly. "You can spend the rest of your life resenting us for defeating you, or you can help us build something better, a galaxy where no species has to fear being mocked or enslaved. The choice is yours." She walked away, leaving to contemplate her words. He looked around at the rebuilding efforts, and humans working side by side, doctors treating Dominion wounded, engineers repairing power systems. A galaxy that had been divided by fear and power was slowly learning to work together. Perhaps thought he had something to learn as well. 1 year later, on the anniversary of the war's end, a memorial was dedicated on Earth. It stood in a quiet park near Geneva, a simple structure of white stone under an open sky. The names of every human who had died in the conflict were carved into its surface, pilots and soldiers and engineers and medics. Ambassador spoke at the dedication ceremony. "We did not choose this war, but when it came, we faced it together, as one species, united against those who would have enslaved us. The people whose names are carved here gave their lives so that humanity could stand free among the stars." She looked out at the crowd, humans and aliens alike, gathered to remember. But this memorial is not just about victory. It is about hope. Hope that we can learn from the past. Hope that we can build a better future. Hope that we never have to fight a war like this again. She paused and her voice grew softer. "The galaxy mocked us. They called us primitive, weak, unworthy. They were wrong. And now, together with our new friends and allies, we will prove that the true measure of a species is not how well it fights, but how well it builds, how wisely it leads, and how freely it forgives." The ceremony ended as the sun set over the memorial. People of 100 species lingered, reading the names, paying their respects. Among them was an old man with silver hair and kind eyes. Admiral Park, retired now, had come to pay his respects to those who had died under his command. He stood alone before the memorial for a long time, reading each name, remembering each face. Then he turned and walked away, back to his garden, back to his quiet life. Above him, the stars shone bright and peaceful, a galaxy forever changed by a species everyone had underestimated. And somewhere among those stars, new ships were being built, not for war, but for exploration. Humanity was finally ready to discover what wonders the universe held. The future was just beginning.